especially if you're Arab, you cop the blame and that's it. Then no one ever teaches you how to do it. No one ever says that's the proper way to do something. They're just good at yelling and chastising and whatever else it may be. Okay? Sometimes physical corporal punishment as well. Alright? So, you've got to teach the person. What else? Okay, you've got to encourage them to do what is obligatory upon them with regards to the rights of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights. You've got to encourage them to do that. And, again, chastise them should they not do that. And when it comes to family members, particularly for fathers and those who are in authority in that regard, then they have to spend time with their families. Is that not something that we spent a lot of time on last week? Considering all the hijabs I see, should it not be something that you recall and remember and are fond of and happy of, or not? Considering it's the prophetic injunction and it's what Imam al-Haddad's talking about and we spent a lot of time on it. So tell us.
So that a man should always give, you said that you said that the best time to give your wife attention is after Isha.
No, it's a prophetic tradition. So the best time you can spend after Isha is time with one's wife. That's the best time you can spend. Better than any other time, whether it's reciting of the Qur'an or whatever it might be. But that's the best time. Right? So that's romance, candlelit dinners and whatever, foot massages and whatever else that your wife likes. And it shouldn't be any different to your sister or your mother. Maybe the sister's not these days so much, but particularly your mother, spending time talking to her, asking her what's going on, what does she need, but just being there. Being there for your mum, it's a good time to do it. Yeah, what else? Anyone else from the back? No.
You can joke around with them, get close to them, obviously joking without sinning, or without breaching the boundaries of God.
Right.
And never to be too far removed from whoever's under you. So you make sure you always, especially your children, you want to make sure that they can always come back to you and tell you everything.
Right, remember we talked about that? How about especially daughters, they've got someone they like at wherever they like, the person at university, at school, at work, and dad loses the plot. It's not going to work. Your daughter has to be able to trust you. If she can't talk to you, she's going to go do whatever she wants to do. Then you're going to say, my daughter's, how can you say that my daughter or my son's bad? You're the person who raised them. You're the one who doesn't know how to raise a child. You can't. And then we said on the Day of Judgment, that's what happens. When the people come complaining to God, to Allah, that, my son or my daughter didn't do what they were supposed to do, or whatever the case might be, and then God says, well, let's see how you raised that child first. You raised that child properly, or then you've got a case. You didn't, no case to answer for that child. Alright? And also, we should maintain reverence. So if you're the manager of whatever it is, the owner of the company or whatever, spend time with your workers or whatever it might be, but don't overdo it. Don't overdo it, because then once that loss of respect happens and the authority disappears, then you're unable to counsel them anymore or reproach them if they do something incorrect. And not only that, the encouragement that you may give, if there's no respect, if there's no reverence there, then it's not going to have the same effect. And look, Australia is unfortunately a little bit not like that. It's the general manager of whatever, it's Bob. Even the Prime Minister is like Bill or whatever it is today. Who is it? Mal. But at least he's got Malcolm. But most of them it's just a shorter names, Rob, Bob, Bill. From whoever it shortened is Bill instead of William, which is what his name is. So Australia's a lot different. That we don't have those kind of those tiers as much. We don't really have any tiers, and we don't like that because no one's better than me, and we're all the same, and whatever. Unless you come from a different culture, or you're a different colour, or you're a different religion, then it's a different story. We'll leave that for another time. Okay. So we spoke about all those things. And he says that, وَخُصَّ النِّسَاء. Like I said, I can't believe you didn't recall that one, I don't know. وَخُصَّ النِّسَاء. The one you should pay most attention to in your family is your wife. And we talked about the Prophet ﷺ, how he was with his wife, how he was with Sayyidatuna Aisha, how he used to run and play games and tell jokes with the women. I don't know, that's disappointing to tell you the truth. That's something you should be grabbing onto. That's something that you should be telling everyone about, and you yourself should be flourishing in. That he says the person you should pay the most attention to in your family is your wife, not your children. How many times have you heard, we're just staying together for the children? I've heard it so many times. Being a family lawyer, I suppose that's occupational hazard. We're just staying together for the kids. That's it. So what? What kind of a household is that? One brother goes to me, oh, by the time I turn, I don't know what it was, 45, I'm going to fix up my home affairs, my affairs at home. I said, well, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. I said, all right, no worries. And then he came and complained again. I said, look, it's not going to work then. You need to divorce your wife if you're going to be like that towards her, doesn't love her, doesn't whatever, can't be with her, hates intimacy with her. So I'm just going to be together for the kids because I don't want the kids to be, off track. Now, one kid doesn't speak to him. This is 10, 15 years, not 15, maybe 10 years later. One kid doesn't speak to him. One kid goes off to counselling because can't handle it anymore because they were together for the wrong reasons. The asas, the foundation of the family is the relationship between mum and dad, husband and wife. If that's rocky, if that's shaky, or worse, hostile, I don't know about where the kids are going to come, especially in the society we live in today, all the freedoms and all the things that are, it's not freedoms, it's lack of borders, lack of any kind of roles, lack of any kind of guidance except do whatever you want to do pretty much. And the constant changing of ethics and morals where people don't know of course your kids aren't going to come out proper if there's not a loving, nourishing, nurturing household for them to grow in. If the two people who are the heads of those households go back to responsibility, as the Imam's saying, if they can't foster that between themselves, how are they going to pass that on to their kids? And then worse, when they split, the kids become a sila, they become a good, a product. They just try and fight over, I want to have the kids more. Well, I had them 3 days last week, now I want them 3 days this week, and and not only that, money is attached to it. Whoever has the kids gets the money. So, well, I'm not letting her, that so-and-so, I'm not letting him, that so-and-so, get the money. And who's in the middle? Kids. And where do they go? Southwest Sydney or Sydney, Western Sydney, organised crime. That's it, that's what's there now. Organised crime. And when I was with Allah Azza wa Jal, I will end up being a terrorist if you're Muslim. Well, with most of these kids, you reckon what? Do the research.
Dad's in prison, dad's not at home, mum's not at home.
So if mum and dad are like that, don't tell me you're staying for the kids. That's a lie. You're just not weak. You're too weak to make a decision, or you're afraid that you're going to lose your money or your status or your reputation or whatever it might be. You're not doing it for the kids. And that's not the case. Because if you're really doing it for the kids, you'd make sure that fundamental relationship between husband and wife worked, no matter what, basically. All right. So, like I said, that's something for yourselves is a good dawah thing that the Imam says, the most time a man should spend with his husband, etc., and pay most attention to is his wife. And that's what you see. What is she after? After attention in the general community. Okay, so we'll continue from there. إننا ونتعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير والحث والتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله وابتغاء مرضاة الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا الصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a praise that's worthy of a beneficent bestower of bounties and a sovereign and an authority in control of all things. And we ask Him to send copious and eternal and unlimited blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Excuse me. قال الإمام المؤلف رحمه الله رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم وقد تتسع رعية بعض العباد كالسلاطين والعلماء وكل راع مسؤول عن رعيته. قال الله تعالى إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان إلى آخر الآية. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام اللهم من ولى من أمر أمة شيئا فرفق بهم فارفق به ومن شق عليهم فاشقق عليه. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام ما من وال يموت يوم يموت وهو غاش لرعيته إلا حرم الله عليه الجنة. Okay, so I read the whole chapter, the whole paragraph. It's on page 88. Thank you. So let's read the last paragraph now.
Sorry, Shaykh, do you want to acknowledge the traditional owners? Do you want to acknowledge the traditional owners?
Oh, thank you very much. We acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay our respects to their elders past and present. Sorry, I kept forgetting to do that. Thank you. Okay, so I want to read that last paragraph so you can keep it in mind. He says, devote especial protection and solicitude to the women of your household. Teach them the rules pertaining to menstruation, obligations of ghusl, wudu, praying, fasting, the rights of their husbands, and other similar things. So he says that's special attention that has to be especial, even more special than special attention in that regard. So that's something, like I said, it's good for dawah, lets us know what's going on. So he says, then, rahimahullah, nafa'ana bihi wa bikum, radiyallahu anhu wa ankum, responsibility may be extensive and involve many people, as is the case with rulers and scholars. Each shepherd will be questioned about his or her flock, as the case may be. God the Exalted has said, God enjoins justice and goodness. And the verse is quoted from that chapter there, 14 or 16, 90. And the Prophet ﷺ has said, many blessings and peace upon him, O God, treat gently those who are given authority over any of my nation, and treat them gently, and treat harshly those who treat them harshly. And no, he says, alayhi salatu wasalam, the Prophet says, no ruler dies having cheated his subjects, but that God forbids the guidance to him or her in that case. Okay, so this goes to the equitous nature that a leader has to treat his or her ruled or led, as the case might be. If the person, so he starts off saying that some people have a lot of people they're responsible for, and he mentions two. He says the sultan, which is the rulers, in any way, shape or form. Like we said, there might be CEOs, general managers, owners of companies and organizations, whatever it might be, not for profit, might be a politician, the attorney general, member for parliament, a prime minister, a premier, a president, a king, even a despot, even someone who takes the rule tyrannically. Once they've assumed that, then they're responsible for what they've done. Okay? And each shepherd, irrespective of the size of the flock, basically that kind of goes to that Allah Azza wa Jal, God doesn't put people in a place of responsibility which they can't handle. So someone who has a large responsibility, we hope that Allah Azza wa Jal put them there because they can handle it, inshallah Azza wa Jal. And he says that Allah Azza wa Jal enjoins justice and goodness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-powerful God, the all-knowing, the sovereign over all things, has prohibited oppression upon himself subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah cannot oppress anybody. It's impossible for anyone to be oppressed by God. So people say, like one time I saw this video, I've still got a headache from it actually, and the guy's going that, how can there be a God when children are born with cancer? How can that? Well, that's the hikmah of Allah. Maybe that child, who knows what they were going to be when they grow up? Who knows what maybe they're going to be a mass murderer or the next, whatever it might be, or that the child dies when they're young, and then they have an eternal, like that's what we believe, is an eternal abode for them. And all people of all religions believe that actually. It's the only people who don't have any faith in anything, they're the ones who don't believe in a better life and the life hereafter. I personally feel sorry for them. That's kind of it's like a tasteless life to live, if you ask me. That's just my personal view. There's nothing to look forward to, except nothing. Non-existence, I suppose. Fana, as it's called in Arabic. Okay? So God has prohibited upon himself the capacity to oppress any single of his creations. So therefore, that he loves those who are just, meaning that God is just. If Allah doesn't oppress anyone, or anything for that matter, that means He's just, equitable in that sense. So Allah hates those that are oppressors, despises the oppressor, and loves those who are just. Allah loves those people. They have elevated status with Allah. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace and blessings of God be upon him, he said, gently. There's another hadith that there's nothing that gentleness is added to except that it makes it better. And there's nothing to which harshness is added to except that it makes it worse. So in terms of equality, if there's a circumstance or a situation that when someone's harsh, that situation will generally become worse. Yet when someone is gentle, generally that situation will become better. And there's a deeper meaning behind that harshness is a sign of force. So if I'm harsh towards someone, that's me showing my authority. Okay? Showing that I have power, showing that I have capability, showing that I have capacity, showing that I can do. And in reality, we know that only God can do. No one else, nothing else can occur in the whole cosmos, but with the order, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, but by the order and the circumstance created by God. So by adding gentleness to any circumstance, what we're really saying is we're acquiescing to Allah's greatness, to God's greatness. We're saying God's the one who's going to do, and I'm only going to do my part. I can't do everything. And that's the kind of the essence of leadership really, is not to think that you can do it, it's to think that God's going to do it, and I'll make sure that all the pieces are in their place and leave the rest to God. So that's what harshness is about, force generally. And we know what the result of force is. Look at Iran, 1979, the Islamic Revolution. Talk to any Iranian, Persian. They hate Islam. And can you blame anything that's forced upon anyone? If you force me to eat chocolate mousse every day, maybe it'll take a while, but eventually I'll start to hate it. Because you're forcing me to do it. That's the nature of humankind. Humans, our nature is that when we're forced to do something, we don't want to do it. But when we're given free rein, so to speak, then we'll do it freely and happily. That's our nature. So the Prophet made a dua, the Prophet Muhammad, ﷺ, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him. He said, oh God, he made a supplication to God, asked God, treat gently those who are given authority over my nation and treat them gently. And from a legal perspective, or philosophical maybe perspective, if you look at all the people who have spoken about leadership and the best type of governance and whatever else, the best kind of state, if you will, what they basically agree on, they say the best ruler is a benevolent dictator. The best type of governance, like what the Thai people are saying about the King of Thailand that passed away now, apparently I don't know anything about it, I just read that he passed away and that what his subjects are saying about him, that he was very gentle and these types of things. So people revere him, they look up to him, they respected him for those reasons, because he didn't oppress them. So that's what they were saying. I don't know if that was the case, but that's what they're saying. Okay? So that's why a lot of the people that comment about rule and governance say the best type of ruler is a benevolent dictator. In other words, someone who is actually there for the people, altruistic. They're looking out for someone else's interest rather than their own interest. And if I may comment on democracy now, my personal view, the reason that it's falling down is because of self-interest, not for any other reason. Because we see that people, and like that's being in Australia and America and different places, it's being exposed regularly. That these massive companies that have just exorbitant expenditures and exorbitant revenues and exorbitant profits every single year, they don't pay any tax. Like how can that be the case? How can that be just? How can that be fair? How can that be acceptable? How can the people who rule our country allow that to happen? That makes no sense whatsoever. Yet you have, who are the very few. Yet you have a large a portion of our society who live, under the poverty line or close to the poverty line. They can't make ends meet. Yet if those tax dollars were taken, and we're talking billions and billions of dollars, were taken from the extremely wealthy, which is supposed to be the system, that's why it's called social welfare, then those issues could be alleviated. Not to mention going to the public hospital. I was talking to a friend of mine, it's 6-7 hour wait to see a doctor in the hospital. You know, all the different things, the issues that we have in our education system. That's what it's for. That's what we have social welfare for. So again, a benevolent dictator. In other words, a person that can't be told, can't be removed, can't be taken out of their position, but their role is, in other words, their goal in being a governor is not to have gold-plated taps and fly in a helicopter from one location to another, although they might need to, but that's not their goal. Their goal is to benefit the people. And that's, as we said again, that's another one of the essences of leadership. What do they say about leadership? The best leaders, not the ones that teach people how to follow, but the best leaders are the ones who create other leaders. Why do you think that's the case, considering what we've read in this chapter?
So it'll help the future generations.
All right. Why? But why is it that creating other leaders is the best way to be, or the best type of leadership is by creating other leaders?
Because you're going to get more, those people that take more responsibility of those under them.
Right. So it comes back to responsibility. Comes back to responsibility. But one of the things I like about being a lawyer is that once you give another lawyer work, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Because each lawyer has that responsibility to make sure the work is done. And there's ethics and other things we have to follow as well. That's one of the things I really like about being a lawyer. Whereas in other management positions I've been in, you just got to chase people around all the time. You spend half your time chasing people around because they don't have that sense of responsibility. They don't carry the sense, they just, oh, it's the boss's problem, the boss will sort it out. And when does, again, the system break down? When people don't fulfill what they're responsible for. So that's why the best leader, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Prophet Muhammad alayhi sallam, who were the people that he raised to be the leaders? The two foremost, Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Umar, right? And he is the one who raised them. They became Muslim on his end and he raised them. He taught them how to be leaders. And Sayyidina Uthman and Ali anhu and Sa'd and Abi Waqqas and Khalid, all these people that ended up being huge, leaders of their time. He's the one who reared them to become leaders. He didn't sit on top of their heads. I think, which is what goes on at the moment. You have to kiss what the saying is, you got to kiss the ring. That's what mafia, when in the mafias, and different types of mafias are around. I don't mean one particular, there's the Asian mafias, and there's the Russian mafias, and the Italian mafias, and the European, or whatever it might be. You have to kiss the ring. To show loyalty, whoever the person, the head mafia, literally, you have to get the ring and kiss it. So that's subservience. Subservience does not breed a community which looks out for their obligations. Subservience breeds a community that's looking out for their rights and looking out just for themselves. And so, irrespective of what faith background or whatever it is you want to apply it to, when people are looking to fulfill their obligations, then you will have justice, which is what we're talking about. Okay? Once people look to fulfill their obligations, you will have justice. Once you have justice, you will have Islam or peace. That's why we're the religion of peace in that regard. Okay. I was saying I'm not going to say it, but I have to say it now. I spoke to a barrister friend of mine. Everything's recorded these days, so one day this is probably going to show up somewhere. I was speaking to a barrister friend of mine, and we've got a client, she's from the Muslim community, etc., etc., and I'm trying to explain to him how it works. Come from a country that hasn't been going forward from overseas, in other words, Middle East in particular, colonialisation, the things we've spoken about many times in this class, right? Come to Australia, the place is corrupt, as we said, because you have to kiss the ring, okay? The place is totally corrupt, and they come here and they don't follow the laws, we said Shahadat al-Zur and all these things, giving false testimony and false oath and all these things. And then in the end I convinced him. I've been trying to tell him for about 3 months, but it's very hard for him to understand. He's not a man of religion, but he's a man of morals. He's a man of ethics. He's a man of principle. So today I finally got through to him and he goes, oh, that makes sense. And I said, okay, how does it make sense? He said, well, I was in the federal court the other day where all the people who rip off Centrelink end up. He said, I was helping a young son of a friend of mine. He said there was 30 names in the list. He's a very senior barrister. And he said 28 of them were from the Middle Eastern background. He said, no, I get it. I said, yeah, because they consider where they grew up, the government's corrupt, and they had to do whatever they had to do to get ahead. And unfortunately, some people have brought that mentality back. He said, well, are these people following Sharia? I said, of course not. This is cultural. This is because of the land in which they come from. Right? So, well, where are we? Where are we? When I'm going to rip off the tax system, when I'm going to rip off the social welfare system, when I'm going to rip off the traffic system when I go through the red light and the camera gets me and I get someone else to swear an oath saying that it was someone else driving or whatever the case. Where's the peace? And we're not the main ones. I've got another friend, an associate who works for the Australian Federal Police, talks about certain types, no offence, Asian drug dealers. That's it. When they catch the drug dealers, they don't say one word. When the guys, I love catching the Arab guys because they just blab, 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 blab. But when I catch the Asian guys, they don't say one word. That's it. Go take me to jail. They go to court. They never say anything. They cop their punishment, and whatever happens to them, happens to them. So in a society of subservience, it's how can I benefit from this society? Basically, how can I eat from the cake? When it's a society of observance, in other words, fulfilling my obligations of observance, then it will be me trying to put back into and benefit the society rather than benefit myself. No need to go further than Khulafa al-Rashidin, great. The righteous caliphs, fantastic, they were doing good. Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he came a lot later. He was one of the rulers. What happened? He was very, very, very wealthy. And his wife was very, very wealthy. When they said, we want you to be the Khalifa, we want you to be the ruler over us, he said to his wife, that's it. Everything we've got to give it. Because what happens? It's a vested interest. When I've got money, I always want more money. That's how it is. But when I'm trying to do something for others, I have a need, and I only want to fulfill my need. So she had all this jewelry that she had as presents, and then she didn't really want to give it up. So he said to her, either you give it up, right, stay with me, you take it, and you go. And she said, oh, that's the choice. She didn't want it because he was such a great man. And in 2.5 years, there was no poverty anywhere. There was no poverty anywhere in the Islamic area of governance. So much so that people, when they had their charity to give, they would run after people and say, take my charity. Say, no, I don't need it. I don't need it. Because people weren't looking for their rights. They were looking for it wasn't a society of subservience. It was a society of observance. How can I help people? And that's how we used to be, mind you. That same barrister I was explaining to him yesterday when we were in court, it's like, why do so many people get involved in when two people break up? I said, because everyone feels a communal obligation. Originally, not now, originally, we weren't just a bunch of individuals. We were a ummah. We're a nation. We're a family. We're one body, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam. The Muslims are like one body. If one part of it, like if you stub your toe, you get a headache. If one part of it is sore, the other part feels it. So how can I let my brother or sister be involved in a marital dispute and not do whatever I can? And then I explain to him, like sometimes I've done, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, conciliations where there was an issue of money. Someone wanted money, usually the wife wanted the money from the husband and he didn't have it. So I spoke to a couple of people who are wealthy and said, look, these people will reconcile, but they don't have the money to reconcile. Will you give them money? And then the barrister was shocked. And why would these people give money? He said. I said, because they want rewards. They want to reach enlightenment, understanding, illumination, nearness to God. That was when we were real as a whole. There's plenty of realness in there. Now, we've taken on the individualistic approach and the subservience approach, whether we've wanted to do it or whatever. I'm not talking about the cause of it, but that's how we've become, to whatever extent it's become. So it's all about me. That's it. What can I do for myself? What can I do for... And then even the movies you watch, I've mentioned this before, the star of the movie will have his daughter, son, mum, wife, husband, whatever it might be, kidnapped, and they'll blow up whole countries and they'll destroy hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lives, break laws, internet, on the movie. I'm not, that's what happens in the movie. They go against their own government and whatever, to save their own, because it's about me. It's not about everybody else, it's about me. So that's what we don't want to breed up, which is, we've got that very badly when I was a blur. So the way to do it is justice. And justice brings peace, which is what Islam is, inshaAllah ta'ala. Oh, this is a heavy duty one. Sorry, man, what page? 88. this is a heavy duty one. He says, the Prophet of Allah said, no ruler dies having cheated his subjects, but that God forbids the guard unto him. So the word is ghash, yani man ghashana laysa minna. Whoever deceives us. That's what it means. What is the word he used there? Cheated. Deceived is the correct word on page 88. So deception. Okay, now look, like I said, I'm only looking at the systems we've got. I personally am not so critical, me myself, of democracy. Islamically, that's how people get elected. That's how Sayyidina Abu Bakr got elected, Sayyidina Umar. So that's how, in other words, the process of electing someone to be the president, there's no problem Islamically. It's actually Islamic to do that. The issue that we have is with the laws, but that's something to do with democracy. And going further than that, that as a lawyer, in my experience, and as someone who's studied Islamic law, is they're almost identical. There's very few differences between particularly common law and Sharia. There's hardly any differences at all. Hardly any differences, substantively speaking. Okay? So, there's no problem really. There's no problem with it. Well, there's really no problem. But we just, because we don't understand either or, and both, we have a problem with it. So, once there's deception, once our leaders start to deceive us, that's when we're in big trouble. That's when we can't get out of, and it doesn't just mean political leaders. It means those people have, again, economic justice has to be there. If there isn't economic justice, like for example, what they're saying now about the, which I hope Allah, I hope something happens there in the United States where some sort of justice comes. But looking at the whole US circus, it's the use of a better word, since they went through the preliminaries and all the way through, if you don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars behind you, you can never, when I was in America and I studied there, the common thing that you'd always hear from the people was, anybody can become president. That was what you'd always hear. And I was like, wow, that's a cool thing to, you have to be born in America, but that's the only thing. If you're born in the United States of America, people would say that. You never hear anyone saying, oh, I want to become Prime Minister. I never heard that ever once in Australia. Never. Never. And I grew up on the North Shore. I didn't grow up somewhere. Never. No one ever spoke about it. Ever. But in the United States, people regularly spoke about it. Like, when they were going to, give someone madah, when they were going to praise someone, this guy could be a good president. She'd be a great president. Like, people would say stuff like that. People would say stuff. There was a great reverence for because why? You're leading people. Now, I don't know if they say it anymore, but what I see from my friends on Facebook who are in the United States, they say it's impossible now. It's just left to an elite few. There's only an elite few. And then when we look at who selected them, how they got there, I don't know. They have, for example, in Australia, basically we have Liberal, and basically we have Labor. They have their branch parties. They pick someone, and it goes from there. That's basically how people get it. So, is there deception there? And the other thing is, when something happens that, it's always about national security, but outside of national security, like in the United States, what happened to JFK, Kennedy, is locked up in their files. I think it's 100 years after everyone who was involved dies, then they get to open up that file. How is that just? How is that equitable? How is that not deceitful? So that's what the Prophet of Allah is saying, that's the type of things he's talking about. Justice has to not only be done, but has to be seen to be done. Any person should be able to, for true justice to exist, to know what the ruling is, how it was derived, and on what facts based, what facts were used to reach that decision. In other words, a set of facts that are relevant to that justice. If that doesn't happen, how am I a citizen? And like Australia, our biggest deception is how we even started as a European colony. Australia was colonised, there's no doubt about it. And according to Blackstone's law, don't ask me, go read Mabo 1992, Mabo number 2, 1992. It's in the Commonwealth Law Reports, best judgment I've ever read. And they say it straight out, invaded. No such thing as terra nullius at that time. There's 3 ways in Blackstone's law, which was a law all the people could follow. Either you invade, you have a treaty, or it's terra nullius. Australia wasn't terra nullius because Aboriginals were around, they had law, they had culture, they had buildings, they had all those other things. There wasn't a treaty between the Aboriginal people and the settlers that came, the English settlers, or the British settlers that came. So the only other option is, it's an invasion. No, my words, It's the words of the High Court justices. They're the ones who rule on those things. So that's the biggest deception that we're going through in Australia. It's a massive deception. So when we're deceived, how can we be just? If we don't have all the facts, that's on a political... But people that have the money that are controlling the media, again, corporate media, which has a vested interest in making money, and of course business is pretty much an unethical practice in the lifestyle and the time in which we live in, because it's about what? Our system is based on what? Capitalism, which is about what?
Money.
Making what? No, not as money, making as much money as you possibly can, irrespective of what it does to anything else. And not only that, there has to be exponential growth. When do a company's share prices drop? Not when it loses money, when there's no growth. But growth, nothing can grow forever. Nothing in this universe, nothing that is in this universe grows forever. Even the sun, they're saying it's going to keep going until what? Does it implode or explode?
It could be either.
It could be. Right? It could be either. That's probably what's happening to our, that's probably what's going to happen to our economic system, implode or explode. Like, just think about it. But that's the system we all live in. I live in, you live in. That's how it works. It doesn't make sense. Not to me, a simple bloke like me. It doesn't make sense. But that's how. So when we're deceived, whether it's by the media, okay, by the people who control, you know, then we cannot reach justice. It won't happen. And Malcolm X, I think he said one time, he said, be careful what the media tell you, because sometimes it's not a direct quote, but it's the meaning of the quote. The media will have you hating those who are oppressed and supporting those who are the oppressors. Along those lines. Along those lines. So, the leaders cannot be deceitful. So, we're going to stop there, because the next faqara, the next paragraph talks about bir al-walidain, being excellent or loyal. Loyal is a good word. Being loyal to one's parents, and it's a different subject. So, you know, I don't want to cross over into it at the moment. So, is there any questions about any of those things? No.
Sheikh, I was just going to ask, when you said, you mentioned, I think it was a hadith about Rasulullah when he spoke about gentleness and harshness. I was just wondering if you could repeat that.
So he said that there's not a thing to which gentleness is added that it becomes better, and there's not a thing to which harshness is added except that it becomes worse. Well, yeah.
In terms of our rulers or our government, them being transparent with us, what's the Islamic ruling on that? No.
In terms of the governance,
Yeah.
Like if you look, if you want to, these are my own personal opinions, and I'm not an expert in the area again. But if you want to look at in history, if you want to look at the Ottoman Empire, for example, in my personal belief, I believe the British Empire, as successful as it was, is based pretty much a carbon copy of the Ottoman Empire. And my example is a very simple example that I learned through the history, that any of the sultans that came in the 400, 500 years that the Ottomans were the strongest empire on the earth, for use of a better word, you can know how much the measurement or the weight wasn't kilos, but you can know how much soap came into and out of the sultan's palace. Right? You can tea, sugar, whatever it is you want to know. The records are there. Ottomans, they love, the Turks even till now, love that stuff. They love organisation, they love statistics, they love all those things. So the transparency if there's no transparency, there will not be justice, because it will allow people to deceive. And once there's deception, then we can't read, again, the circle goes around. There can't be justice. If I don't know the facts, how can I reach justice? If I don't know what A said, and this is a big issue in the world we have right now, we'll listen to side A, yep, okay, and then we blame side B. Wait a minute, you haven't listened to side B yet. You haven't taken anything in from side B. You've just completely listened to side A and taken. Of course, you're going to take their side, irrespective of what you haven't heard the other side. So at least as a minimum, you need to hear the other side of the argument. Otherwise, you can't discern, you can't decipher, you can't decide, and that's the problem with lack of transparency. Or something's for national, like unfortunately with the terror. We're Muslims, so when we talk about terrorism, No one doesn't listen to us. Most things we talk about, they don't listen to us anyway, but it's on the subject that when they have the terrorism trials, the person who's the accused, which goes against every principle of justice and every principle of law and the basis of the rule of law and the basis of the adversarial system. But it's okay because it's such an important issue that the government has deemed that this is the way it's going to be run. If you're charged with an offence, you don't even know what the charge is. You know what the charge is, but you don't know any of the evidence against you. You have to defend yourself without even knowing what the evidence is. What justice? I don't know my words. Ask the Chief Justice, His Honour, Tom Bathurst. He's the one who's saying these things like that. Not me. I'm just listening from... He knows a lot more about these things than I do. That's what he's saying. That's what he said in his speech at the beginning of opening of law term this year. What justice? It's not justice. It's just a political... And Australia, we're the worst. Sorry to say it. We're the only common law country in the whole world that doesn't have a Bill of Rights. That's pathetic. Sorry. We don't have a bill. You and I do not have any rights. The only one that has rights is either the Commonwealth government or the state government. That's it. We don't have any rights. Unless they're implied rights given to us by the High Court. So for example, the free speech does not exist in Australia as a rule. We have the right to political free speech. Free speech that allows us to make what? Political decisions, which needs what? Transparency. So, even worse. That's the reality. But what? She'll be right, mate. Don't worry. She'll be right. Crack open a couple and don't worry about that. What? Don't worry about it. What are you going to worry about it for? Don't worry. She'll be apples.
Too much trust in that.
You know, I mean, look. Okay? And if we personally don't do anything about it, then what? What do you expect? That's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. And we're all working and got responsibilities, but we're all citizens and we have to do whatever we can do to, by God's will, isn't there to change things. So, look, it's a big issue. It's a big...
I have a question regarding the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun 'an ra'iyatihi." He meant the parents, or in general, what do you think?
Well, that was the first hadith on the Imam al-Haddad mentioned. So it's in all levels. That's why it's a general hadith.
Not just for parents.
No, everyone. Like we said, if you're the man. So the question is about the prophetic tradition that says that you're all. It was here. So you're all shepherds responsible for your flocks, for use for different words. So the reason why the Prophet of Allah in his wisdom, and because he speaks from what Allah tells him, that it doesn't say that the boss is responsible for the employer for the employee, or the parent for the child, or the captain for the captain. It's a general. It says the shepherd for the flock. So it's a metaphor. So it applies to all situations. Anytime there's any responsibility, anytime there's any leadership, that the person who's the leader will be questioned about, held accountable for the way they led. Okay? It's general over all things, not just. But the Prophet, subhanAllah, the hikmah of the Prophet, the wisdom of the Prophet Muhammad, he says, وَالْمَرْأَةُ مَسْئُولَةٌ فِي بَيْتِ زَوْجِهَا. So he even brings it specifically to the general roles, as we have Islamically speaking, general roles, that if a wife's in the house of her husband, that she also bears responsibility. She's got a responsibility in that house. So it's a general thing. It's a general. Any other questions about that or anything else before we conclude? All good? Nothing happening out there in the Twitter world or the Twitter sphere? Sorry, not there. Twitter sphere. No, I'm not a millennial, so
Can I ask
no.
one more question?
Please do.
You know, like when we look at like a state like Iran, where there's a force, a coercion to behave a particular way, it creates a kind of hypocrisy in people. So outwardly they'll practice, but inwardly there's a disconnect. So like in our families, when we're advising people, how do we strike a balance between advising them to do something and without creating kind of hypocrisy in them, that they're doing it to appease you, but not from the inside? How do we reconcile this?
Look, that's a good question, and so it's the reconciling, having the authority over someone and not having the authority so overbearing that people practice or do something just to please the individual who's asking them to do it, or the authority that's asking them to do it, or doing it sincerely from their own hearts and convictions. And look, that is really the question that we have to ask ourselves as Muslims in Australia. I think that's the crux of the question. You know, are we only doing things because if we don't, we'll get caught by the police and we'll end up, 28 out of 30 cases in the federal court? Is that why we're doing it? That means that means there's a khalal, there's a deficiency in our own conviction, in our own iman, in our own faith, because that's totally un-Islamic. And how many times have we mentioned the hadith? It says, كل صفة يطبع على المؤمن إلا الكذب والغش. Any quality, thief, drunkard, whatever, any quality could be attributed to the believer except two. One is to be a liar or to be untruthful, fraudulent if you like, and the other one is khiyana, treachery, to be treacherous, to say to someone, oh no worries, I'm on your side, and then stab them in the back, basically, if you want to look at it that way. So if we, upholders, as we believe, of the truth, where's our truth? Where's the manifestation of our truth? If we don't believe it and live by it, even when we talk to our kids, oh, look, do that and I'll get you whatever. Or little baby kids, come, here's a lolly in my hand. And what's there? Nothing, that's all lies. Even when we joke, sarcasm, all those things. So if we truly don't believe that's the case, then how are we going to implement it? So the essence of what you're saying is about rearing. How do I develop those around me? How do I work in a sort of training those people that are around me, so that instead of it being just a manifestation of what I want, or in the Islamic sense what God wants, how is it that something that's imbued in their hearts and they themselves bear responsibility for their own actions? And the question is training, really, and upbringing, both of those things. So if it's in the home, the child, like, it's a monkey see, monkey do scenario. We think our kids are dumb, Someone knocks on the old days, someone knocks on the door, tell them I'm not here. Oh, I'm busy when I'm not busy. So the child learns how to lie by what goes on around them. Or they see the mum, whatever, doing something, and then later on their dad says, oh, did you do this? And the mum's like, no, I didn't do it. And they were there. The kids saw it. Right? So in the home, we have to lead by example. And in the end, it's all tawfiq from Allah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give someone tawfiq, He will. You can't guide who you will. You can't guide who you wish. Allah guides who He wills. So we have to do what we can. The first step is for us to practice and us to implement it with sincerity, and that's in our hearts and in the prophetic manifestation and the way the Prophet would have done things, alayhi salatu wasalam. And then to encourage people. And then as the Imam said also, that once the apparency of leadership is there, then that kiss the ring attitude applies. So once I let people know that I'm the boss, is it like this now or is it like that? Which one do you want? This one? Right? Once I get the gun and I'm the authority, then that's it. Subservience is what comes next, rather than observance. That's the ultimate extreme example, to make it clear in your minds. But if I'm encouraging someone, talking with them, as Imam al-Haddad mentioned, at-talatuf, being gentle with them, even though I know I'm in authority, and they know I'm in authority, then they're more likely to take the responsibility upon themselves, which is what we really need. That's how you really do it. Once someone takes that's why we say a person can't have legal capacity till they're 18, because before that they're not in a state to be able to, to know it. I mean, there's a bit of grey areas, but generally, they're not in a state or a condition to be able to make their own decisions and understand the things around them and be responsible for their actions because of immaturity, because of lack of complete brain development, because of hormonal development maybe, whatever the case might be. So it's about that responsibility. If people can be imbued with responsibility, then they'll go on. And that's why we are called al-mukallafin, us and the jinns, the spirit people, whatever, spirit world, us and the spirit world, we're the ones who are accountable, mukallafin. We've been given responsibility or capacity, so to speak, because we can choose. So if we choose to be responsible for ourselves, then we'll be close to God. If we choose to be irresponsible, then we'll be far from God and probably will be in jail or something like that, or worse. You know, so it's a big question, but that's basically, you know. Well, yeah, cool. Any other questions about anything? All good? Jazakumullah khairan. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala khayri na'am ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam ya arhamar rahim. Alhamdulillah bi rahmatika al-wasi' wa yasalamuna bil hayati ba'da mamat wa tabbat aqdaman ala as-sirat al-mustaqim ya arhamar rahimin. Alhamdulillah ya arhamar rahimin bi rahmatika al-wasi' ya arhamar rahimin. Qarrabna ilayka bika wa waffiqna lima tuhib wa tarda. واجعلنا من الذين يستمعون القول ويتبعون أحسن يا أرحم الراحمين. زدنا علما زدنا علما زدنا علما. Ya Allah, we ask you to forgive our sins and the sins of our fathers and our mothers. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of those people that implement better than that which they learn. Ya Allah, we ask you to illuminate our hearts and our minds so we understand not only the life of this world, but that one day we'll return to you and how to properly do that. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of those people that spread justice throughout the world and carry responsibility firstly for themselves and encourage others, Ya Allah, to be close to you and to be close to the prophetic nature and the prophetic character by maintaining responsibility over oneself and over those which one is charged. Ya Allah, we ask you to bless this place and bless those who have enabled us to gather in this place to learn about you and about the Prophet and about the righteous way to live from the righteous predecessors, Ya Allah. We ask you to make us of those people who implement that which is beneficial on this earth, Ya Allah, and for our return to you. Ya Allah, forgive us and accept us. Bi khairin wa lutfin wa afiyah wa la hadrat al-Nabi bi-sir al-Fatiha. إن شاء الله.